Hi and welcome back. I'm teacher Daphne, and again today we are going to talk about collaborative learning, which we also talked about in our previous lesson. But before, we just talked about what collaborative learning is. We just also talked about the principles and benefits and downsides of collaborative learning. And we also recommended some activities that are suitable for collaborative learning. Okay? But for now, today, we are going to tackle about collaborative learning tips and strategies for teachers. So let's take a look at our objectives. Just as what the title is saying, we have here, we are going to discuss some collaborative learning tips and strategies for teachers. Let's start. Collaborative learning teams are said to attain higher level thinking and preserve information for longer time than students working individually. Many consider Vygotsky, do you know him? He is Vygotsky, okay? Lev Vygotsky, the father of social learning. And Vygotsky was an education rebel in many ways. He actually controversially argued for educators to assess students' ability to solve problems rather than merely acquiring knowledge. Okay? The idea of collaborative learning has a lot to do with Vygotsky's idea of the zone of proximal development. It considers what students can do if aided by peers and adults. By considering this model for learning, we might consider collaboration to increase students' awareness of others' concepts. Here then, as you can see, we are going to talk about the tips and strategies. So what do you think are they? Can you also recommend some? Try to note down these tips and strategies because in the future, it will be very helpful for you. Let's start. Number one is that we have to establish clear goal, okay? Clear group goals. Effective collaborative learning involves the establishment of group goals as well as individual accountability. This keeps the group on task and establishes an unambiguous purpose. So before beginning an assignment, it is best to define goals and objectives to define time or to save time. Sorry, not define time, but save time. Sometimes if we do not have clear goal, we just waste our time or instead we just do different kind of task. So it is better if we could actually have clear group goal. All right. Another tip is we have to keep our groups or we have to make groups mid-sized. Not too small group, not too large, okay? Large number. So small groups of 3 or fewer usually lack enough diversity. And they may not allow divergent thinking to occur. Or it may not allow, I should say, it may not allow divergent thinking to occur. On the other hand, if we have groups that are too large, it creates freeloaders or freeloading where not all members participate. And I'm pretty sure that if you have seen this one in your classes, that if you have a lot of members in a group, more likely the way how you share ideas are limited, or sometimes some members do not just do the task. We already have talked about the downsides, right? Do you remember them? So this could also be part of the downside. If you have too many members in your group, not many people could actually participate. And a moderate size of 4 or 5 perhaps is a great deal. Also, the teacher can easily facilitate these groups and, of course, the students themselves. Okay? So, as again, we have to keep our group mid-size. Okay, let's continue. We have to establish flexible group norms. What does it mean by norms? Exactly. Norms are also called, rules. Okay? Research suggests that collaborative learning is influenced by the quality of interaction. Interactivity and negotiation are important in group learning. If you notice a deviant norm or an unusual norm, a rule, okay, you can do 2 things. You can actually just rotate the group, especially the members. You can just rotate the group members, or maybe assist in using outside information to develop a new norm or a new rule. You may want to establish rules for groups interaction for younger students as well. So you can help them do with these kinds of rules that they have, especially within the group. Okay, so that is just number 3. Let's move on. Oh, by the way, I forgot. Older students might create their own rules or norms, but remember, given their durable nature, it is best to have flexible rules, because norms should change the situation and that students or the group do not become rigid and intolerant, or they should not develop subgroups. And we don't want that. We should avoid that kind of thing unless it's necessary. Okay? Another thing that we could see here is we need to consider using different strategies. Like, for example, the use of the jigsaw technique. Are you familiar with this technique? Maybe yes, maybe not. Okay. Well, the jigsaw strategy is said to improve social interaction in learning, and it supports diversity. It actually involves separating an assignment into subtasks where individuals research their assigned areas, and students with same topic from different groups might meet together to discuss ideas between groups. Also, this type of collaborative or collaboration allows students to become experts in their assigned topic. So students then learn to their primary group to educate others. These strategies include using clusters. They could also use buzz groups, and they could also use round robin, which is very common, and leaning cells, if you are familiar with that. The fishbowl discussion also. Fishbowl discussions are also good to incorporate when you are trying to use this kind of technique. Okay? So we have to use jigsaw technique. Do you have any other questions? I hope you understood this part. Let's move on. We have to allow the group to reduce anxiety. Oh, when you were doing some group discussions with your teammates, did you have this kind of anxiety wherein you don't also want to participate, like you don't want to share your idea because your teammates are so intimidating? Oh my gosh, they're so smart. I don't want to share my opinion. I might look stupid. Have you ever had that kind of experience? Well, when you are going to become a teacher and you will use collaborative, or how can I say, collaborative approach, especially activities, okay, we have to allow the group to reduce, what is this? Anxiety, all right? So when tackling difficult concepts and group learning, when tackling difficult concepts, group learning may provide source of support. It actually allows the group to use some stress-reducing strategies as long as they are staying on the task. What kind of stress-reducing strategies? Like, for example, perhaps adding humor when you are discussing, okay? You can not really joke around, but well, that's part. If you have the kind of student who really likes to joke around, you can also have that. But the point here is it should not be a very stiff kind of group, and they should also feel comfortable when they are discussing. Okay? When they use humor and they create more relaxed learning atmosphere, these learners actually can learn more, how can I say, they can positively learn more, especially based on their experiences. Okay? All right. So these are the things that we can use. Another thing, we have to establish group interaction. The quality of discussion is predictor of the achievement of the group. Instructors should provide a model on how a successful group functions. Shared leadership is often useful, okay, especially when we are doing this collaborative learning. And roles are very important in group development. Not because you are in this team and you are the leader, you should not just overtake, but you have to make sure that you can, how can I say, distribute some task equally, and the members should do their task like responsibly, okay? So the roles are very important. If you are the leader, they have to take care of the group. And if they are the members, they have to follow. And of course, they should also share some input in the discussion. All right. Task functions includes initiating discussion, clarifying points, summarizing, providing or researching information, and of course, researching a consensus. All right? Maintenance involves the harmony and emotional well-being of a group. So this maintenance includes roles such as sensing groups, especially the feeling, and harmonizing the group, compromising and encouraging them. Of course, timekeeping. So not only that, they could also do some relieving tension. They can bring people into the discussion and so on. You can think more if you want. You can add more if you want. But these are just the tasks that we could use when we are doing some kind of group discussions. Okay? Because of course we do not just let the learners have develop their social skill, but also the way how they think, the way how they discuss, how they organize their thoughts and everything. All right, so that's it. Let's move on. One of the things that we could do when we are doing some group works or group activity is to use real world problems. Why do we need to do this? Experts suggest that the project-based learning using open-ended questions can be very engaging. It allows your students to think more. It allows your students to be more creative, to think critically, okay? So rather than spending a lot of time designing an artificial scenarios, use inspiration from everyday problems. So you can think of the daily activities that you had, or you can just use real situational scenarios, okay? Real world problem can be used to facilitate project-based learning, and they often have the right scope for collaborative learning. Another is that we have to keep in mind that diversity is a part in making a group. Okay, so we have to keep in mind the diversity of the group. Mixed group that includes a range of talents, backgrounds, learning styles, even ideas and experiences are just okay, or the best things that we can consider. Okay, studies have found that mixed aptitude groups tend to learn more from each other and increase achievement of low performers. Rotate groups so students have a chance to learn from others. Okay, as I told you earlier in our previous video, that when we are going to group our students, it should be heterogeneous grouping, right? That's part of the principle that we have learned. So here, we also have to keep in mind the diversity of the students, especially the group, because the more diverse they have, or the more diverse they are, the better they could learn from one another. Okay, moving on. What is this? It says here, use scaffolding. Are you familiar with the term scaffolding? Well, scaffolding is a process, okay, through which a teacher adds support for students in order to enhance learning and aid the mastery of tasks. So use scaffolding, or the diminished responsibility, as students begin to understand concepts. At the beginning of a project, you may want to give more directions than the end. So more likely when you are using scaffolding, you can just guide your students, okay, until they get familiar to the task. Perhaps you could give them also examples, or yes, any other things will do. But the thing here is we have to guide them until they get familiar to the task, and after that, with your guidance, they can just do it on their own. It actually, what's that? In our lesson here, another thing is we have to include types of learning scenarios. As I mentioned earlier, we have to use real world or real time situation, or how can I say? Real world situation, scenarios, right? So studies suggest that collaborative learning that focuses on rich context and challenging questions produces higher order reasoning. Assignments can include laboratory work, maybe even study teams. Maybe you have done this. Even debates, I'm sure you have also. Writing projects, problem solving, and of course the collaborative writing. Okay, so these are just the different things that we could see. We also need to value diversity. Okay, how do we value diversity? Collaborative learning relies on some buy-in. Students need to respect and appreciate each other's viewpoint for it to work. Of course, if you keep on arguing and then you just don't come up with good output, that's really terrible. But if you try to respect and appreciate each other's viewpoint, there is a possibility that you could actually have more than what you have expected, right? And you will have a better output, you will have a better work. For instance, class discussions can emphasize the need for different perspective. Create a classroom environment that encourages independent, especially independent thinking. Okay? Teach students to value the, how can I say? Teach students to value the what was that word? Multiplicity in thought. You may want to give historical or social examples where people working together were able to reach complex solutions. All right, so this is how we could value diversity. Okay? So, in general, we impart ideas and share perspective with each other. And collaboration is a learned process. So if we manage correctly, it is a powerful tool that can allow educators to tap into new ideas and information. So I hope that these collaborative learning tips and strategies are very helpful to you as a future teacher. So if you have taken down notes of these strategies, well done. And if you have more things to add, just put it down in your notes and I'm pretty sure it will come in handy. All right, so these are the different strategies and tips that I could share with you. I hope they are very useful and I hope they will be very effective once you use them. So thank you for listening. Have a good day.